Well, listen, my first question is, the reviews have been fantastic. The critics are unanimous, the public is unanimous, and the words brilliant, the words masterpiece, the words unprecedented have been used like people drink water. What is it like for you, now that the film is finished and people are seeing it, to be part of just such an extraordinary process?
Well, I just want to say that was never our intention, like, to try to make a masterpiece or something, but we just really wanted to make an intimate movie about human beings, flawed, loving, all of that. And it was a really incredibly beautiful experience for all of us to have it, and hard to finish making it.
It's the first time in my life I've ever had a movie come out where I have a real genuine sense of sadness about the release. And it was so fun to have this private little secret art project that you really believed in and was a place to put, you know, it's an epic about minutiae. Right? There's all these tiny little moments. And it was a really fun and beautiful thing to get to work on. And there was a sense, normally with movies, it's all about creating this product and it's going to go out. And it's usually like some kind of sprint. You know, we got the financing, we have to go, we're going to make it, and we're going to shoot it in 4 weeks. And then, we got to get it finished in time for Sundance or whatever. And this, it was a kind of feeling like we were making it for ourselves. Because especially when it started, when's it going to come out? In 11 years. I mean, people didn't have any context when I would tell people what I was working on. What do you mean it'll be done in 7? What do you mean it'll be done in 3 years? Even towards the end, when it's almost over, and when's it coming out? Yeah, in 3 years. It was kind of hard to wrap your brain around. And so this weekend. I mean, first of all, I've never done Q&As after a movie in my life, and this whole experience has been totally unique. I wouldn't do it for another movie. There's something so special about it. I think I really did want to be here. But it does make me sad. That was a very long-winded answer.
Well, we're happy to hear. Now, go back to 2002. Take me back to when Richard Linklater first told you, not just about the movie, but how he was going to shoot it. What was your first impression of that?
I had met him at a cocktail party and told him I was a fan, and then years went by and my phone rang, and it was him. We were just chatting for a minute, and then he was like, well, what are you going to be doing the next 12 years? And I really didn't equate it to a movie. I thought, okay, I've never really, is he proposing to me? And agreeing that we'll divorce in 12 years? What's going on? I don't even know what he could be referencing. And no, it was... So, well, I'm thinking about making this movie a week a year for 12 years. You watch this little boy grow up. He starts first grade, he graduates high school. Now, at that point, Rick was a pretty young dad. He had a 6-year-old, and I had a 12-year-old. I had my son when I was 20. So I was like, oh, yeah, I did. And he was like, go home, you know. He was like, oh, what's my part? You're a mom. Oh, great. Well, I should probably read the script. We don't have a script. But then he told me all the changes, like you can get married, you can go back to school, you're going to marry a professor, you're going to have drinking problems, all of that stuff which remained. But he also left a lot of space to see who the kids were going to be. Because at a certain point, your life's dictated by your parents, but then you start making your inroads with your own friends. And you didn't know if Ella would be a football star or what would be happening.
What was your first impression?
Well, I had already worked with Rick a bunch of times. And Rick had just finished Waking Life. And if you know Rick well, time is kind of always on his mind a little bit about the way that, time, he would say things like, time is, he doesn't say, it's a common thing, time is the clay we make our lives with. We all get a certain amount, and what do we do with it? It's kind of a fascinating thing. You can make a case today that Waking Life takes place over 3 seconds. We done Before Sunrise, which took place in an evening. Tape was all real time. Dazed and Confused happens in One Night Slackers, about a continuous moment. And so, if you know him well, it seemed a natural extension of the way his brain worked. And he's pretty much the only person I know that could be patient enough to pull something like this off. He's a very unshowy person, you know, and it's very clear when you're with him. He's on his own mission in life. I mean, nothing would make him more uncomfortable than the hyperbole around this movie. You know, he's not even, why didn't they like Bernie, man? You know, I mean, it's really this is what he loves to do. And so when he gave me the idea, I had two thoughts. One was, I couldn't believe that nobody had done it already. It was like, you just think some crazy Russian would have done it or something. And I thought, this is such a good idea, and you're going to do it so well. Because unlike most directors, you know, Rick really likes human beings. And and even more uncommon is he likes women. You know, and he's actually genuinely interested in women, and not in them as some fraction of a human being, you know, but in a whole, complete human being. And that's why he was so excited to work with Patricia, and he knew that the movie needed an anchor. Because there's a line, he said, this movie's going to be about how we all get dragged through our parents' lives, which is a line that ended up going in before midnight. But it was part of his pitch to me about this movie.
Well, tell me about your first meeting with 6-year-old Eller Coltrane.
Well, I went to Texas before we shot that first year. Rick called me, said, well, we're going to do this thing. I was like, you got the financing, unbelievable, I can't believe that. And I flew in, and he introduced me to Eller and Lorelei, and he said, this lady's going to play your mom. And then I had them for the whole weekend, and Rick vacated his house, you know, just me and the kids, and we were cooking macaroni and cheese and doing art projects, playing dinosaurs, and going to the swimming hole.
They're such beautiful kids. It's strange for me to, almost like your own kids, you know, you don't notice them change year by year. I noticed it when we saw the movie for the first time. I really couldn't believe how young they were when we started. I had this kind of memory of doing scenes with a 6-year-old, but he looks exactly like Eller now. Anyway, they were great kids, you know, and they were both so different. You see, for Lorelei was just born when I met Rick when we were starting before Sunrise.
Yeah.
You know, so I've known her forever. And that's been really fun. And so to get to have a sex ed talk with Lorelei was, you know, that's you know, I'm her father's, you know, one of his closest friends, and so getting to say to her, so are you having sex? And her girl face was like, you know, about to explode. It was really, I mean, that part of it, there was you know, there's a little parallel life thing happening that was really fun. And Eller, of course, is the unforeseen element that took this out of a gimmick and raised it to cinema, his contribution. You know, Rick took a bet. He likes to say he casts the parents. They're good parents. Father's a musician. They're really interesting Austin people. Mother's an artist, too. But through the course of the movie, he really started to develop, and the movie became a kind of place for him to put his creativity. And you know, his parents got divorced through the course of the movie. He had a lot of feelings. He's a very interesting person. And he wasn't the director's kid. You know, I mean, he's this other person we have to get to know.
Right. Well, I'm actually really